When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk, people.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, and welcome to the Make We Talk program here on our YouTube channel. This morning, rather, why am I saying afternoon? This morning, we're going to speak about Jamaica's and South Africa's crime. I am supposed to have Ambassador Andy Mashaile on. Well, this morning I have my good friend Wilfred Rattigan along with Christopher. We're going to see what we can do to give some words in helping with Jamaica's crime pandemic. We're waiting some other guests to come on. Herbert Nelson Jr. is supposed to be on. We're waiting for Mr. Nelson to come on also. So that is what we're going to do right now. But in the meantime, the two countries face similar crime problem. Wilfred Rattigan, and both based on what is going on in Jamaica with criminals taking over when it comes down to robbing armored trucks and so forth. In South Africa, you have criminals robbing ATM machines. So, it's basically the same thing that's happening in Jamaica. Mr. Rattigan, welcome to the program, sir.
Yeah, welcome, Jeffrey, and good morning or good afternoon to your viewing audience, wherever they are.
Yes. When we sit down and we look at what is going on in Jamaica, I'm hoping and praying that, we're supposed to have our good ambassador coming on. So let us see if we can have him coming on. Okay, oh my God, I have my good friend, Major Robert Fincher Smith.
Morning, sir.
Morning, Sir Smith. How are you doing? Welcome to the program, sir.
Hi, sir. Thank you.
You see your good friend Wilfred Rattigan here.
They're in good company, man.
Vinzi, you look, Vinzi, good morning. You look about 20 years younger, man. You shave off something. I don't know if it's a beard or a mustache or something, but you shave something.
I shave off the ears. My beard, my mustache, and my hair.
Oh, by the way, I sent you something by email, I don't know if you check it.
Check which one the email they have Yahoo?
I think it's a Yahoo. I sent you that information that you and I talked about.
The hilltop.
Yes. I sent it to you. I sent it to you about 5 days ago.
Okay, I double check.
Yeah.
There he is. Ambassador Andy Mashaile. Welcome to the program, sir.
Good afternoon to everyone, and how's my family doing that other part of the world?
We're doing good, I know your good friend Will love to see you in Washington.
Hey,
Andy. I'm definitely coming, Will.
Andy, comrade, I have something for you.
How are you, my brother?
Well.
Yeah, and I was just about to say, you guys are talking to a world champion, eh?
There you go, man. There you go.
You guys are talking to a world champion, rugby world champion.
There you go, man.
Yes.
Hey,
The
congratulations.
fourth in a row.
Oh, really?
The fourth trophy in a row.
Wow. And also, I heard that you guys, you won the Cricket World Cup as well.
I'm not sure. I haven't been checking the news.
Yes.
But
No,
I'm
no, you
definitely
did.
sure
You
today.
did. No, you did. You did. You did. Or we did. I should say we did.
Yeah, so you're talking to a
Yes.
double champion here.
Yeah.
Gentlemen,
You're South African now, Wilfred.
Yes.
Wait, that's something I know.
So-
Something I know, brother.
You look like you fit right in around Cape Town.
hold on for me now, gentlemen. Let us hold on for me. First of all, Sir Francis Smith, we're not seeing you at all. We're going to see you with the bottle of white.
Is that any better?
Yes, a little bit better.
Good. I'm taking a dim view of life.
Yes. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Welcome to the discussion this morning. It's evening for Ambassador Andy in South Africa. We must apologize. Lieutenant General Godfrey Lebeya will not be joining us this morning. We're hoping that he would, but he sent a message to me that he's not, on circumstances beyond his country, can't be joining us. But let us continue. Let us start with this program. Gentlemen, you know that Jamaica face a crime situation, and most of it, we're gonna say we're knocking behind Haiti's back door. Before we go any further, can you mute all your mics for me, please? And when you're talking, then mute your mic because we're having a feedback in the thing here. So
Okay.
yes, before I go any further, we're gonna welcome Herb Nelson Jr., Wilfred Rattigan, our good friend Christopher, Ambassador Andy, and our other good friend from out of the land of wood and water, Sir Francis Smith.
Yes, sir. Good morning, all.
Welcome to the Jamaica South Africa Security Forum. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Make sure you send this live link out to everyone in viewing land and social media. I'm still having a feedback here. Is somebody mic is not muted? Mute your mic to me. Yes. We're facing a serious problem in our country, Jamaica. And when you look at it, between Herb Nelson and Will Kensey and Ambassador, that sometimes you look at this scenario that's going on in Jamaica, it's the same scenario going on in South Africa. So that is why we decided to have this forum this morning or this afternoon. Because we're trying to compare and see what we can do to assist within, Jamaica's crime pandemic. I'm going to start off with our good friend from out of South Africa, Ambassador Andy Mashaile. He is the former ambassador to Interpol. Former ambassador to South Africa from Interpol, rather. And he was head of the Turn Back Crime program in South Africa. Ambassador, tell us some more about that, sir.
You want me to tell you some more about the Turn Back Crime campaign?
Right. How did you go about dealing with such problem you have in South Africa?
The Turn Back Crime campaign stretches in 195 member countries of Interpol. You generate, the purpose is to generate awareness of crimes that are committed throughout the world. Key and critical to their awareness is transformative behaviors that would make people to be security conscious, to be security aware, and to generate a culture of safety and security generally in the population, as well as linking with law enforcement agencies in South Africa and the rest of the world. I know that you have a a Washington Interpol Bureau, your National Central Bureau in Washington, amongst others, coordinating the hunt of those perpetrators of crime, as well as engaging in crime prevention, international or rather transnational crime prevention and crime combating. Um, some of us got recruited into Interpol as a result of having done civilian oversight on law enforcement agencies in South Africa. In South Africa, you have 1,112 plus what you in America and in Jamaica would call stations, police stations, and those 112 plus throughout the country have a responsibility to respect Constitution in a way and manner that says the police are serving the community, and the community therefore has a responsibility to hold the police to account in the prevention and combating of crime. Where crime could not be prevented, the police would combat crime. Combating crime would now mean reactive intelligence gathering as opposed to proactive intelligence gathering that happens in the first phase of crime prevention. Your crime prevention would be knowing that there's going to be a cash in transit heist, and the cash in transit heist is going to happen on spot or at spot X on your interstate or your freeway. Your November 4 from Wilwood, no, November 4 from Pretoria to Rustenburg, or November 4 your N4 from Pretoria to Mpumalanga. When you have that intelligence, you have that intelligence because members of the community would have the knowledge, would have shared that information with you, and or you would have known of that crime, or you would have known of the people who are planning to commit that kind of crime, and you then planned your operative in that gang that's going to take down the money van on the November 4 or interstate or Route 66, interstate 135. You would know the spot exactly how many people are there, the firearms, the ammunition, and that kind of stuff. So in your interaction between the police and communities, we had a responsibility at provincial level and national level. I had a responsibility to ensure that the police account to the community. And how do they account? When we wrote the Gauteng co-created policing strategy, Gauteng is a province in South Africa, what you would call a state in America and other parts of the world. So when we devised that strategy, we involved one and all in the province. And one of those that we involved would be your offices of your Human Rights Commission, who then tell you how the police must police communities and move away from apartheid violence and tactics and things like those that you see in America. African Americans, or rather, as all of us on this platform are not only Africans, we are sons, grandchildren of the Alkebulans. So when we are destroyed in America through racist acts, it is our responsibility in South Africa as those doing law enforcement civilian oversight. you will then be in a position through other stakeholders like your independent investigative police directorate, where police have criminally extracted evidence, witness or evidence from suspects and many of those things, or where police have committed crime. You would then be in a position to ensure that there is that accountability that they're subjected to. That's why some of us were then requested to join Interpol, were invited as ambassadors. Generally, what you do is you want to generate, by involving your communities, transformative security awareness, not just simple awareness that would make you drive around twice or three times your block to check, just to double check if you are not followed by car A or car B, so that when you go into your driveway, you are not accosted or you are not sandwiched, like they say. You can reverse and your gate is not blocked, either through your remote control or when the criminals have targeted you, they'll make sure that they disable the motor on your gate, and they would come in and take your car. So long story short, that's what the 10 Back Crime campaign responsibilities were, that some of us were putting into place and ensuring that they happen. Some of those people who were ambassadors international, you have gentlemen who are celebrities like your Saruk Khan, the actor from India, your Jackie Chans of the world. I've worked with the Frank Brunos of the world. I've worked with the Lionel Messis of the world, because they have got the pull power to ensure that transformative behavior is unleashed in a way and manner that would help, one, with crime in general, two, with transnational crime that we are seeing on the up in the world, be it drugs, be it money laundering, be it your phishing scams, be it participation on your deep web and dark web by criminals. Knowing these things and being able, using the star power amongst others, to ensure that there's transformative behavior that is being drummed on. I know you yourselves in America and in the American military, you have a unit responsible for PsyOps, your psychological operations, when America goes into Afghanistan and they bomb the Taliban, they also throw plastic footballs to the young people in the community. And the strategic intention would be for those young boys to oppose their fathers in the house. When their father says Americans are infidels, like they would say, the young man who's received a gift from the American soldier would say, no, the soldiers are our friends. So one of those things would be to look at transformative behavior that makes people not to commit crime, or that makes people to stay away or identify those who commit crime.
Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Ambassador. Thank you for your introduction towards what we did in the Turn Back Crime Initiative in South Africa. We're going to touch on a situation that we face in Jamaica. Herb Nelson Jr. and Wilfred Rattigan spoke about it last night on their program. You know, Jamaica does not have pipe bombs. When it comes on to cocktail bombs with a little kerosene in it and some newspaper, you roll up a piece of t-shirt. And that is what we know. Now tell me something now, Sir Francis Smith. I'm going to ask you this question. And put the camera more on your face. Yes, the girls, they can see your beautiful face, man, your handsome face. Jamaica does not manufacture pipe bombs. We don't have pipe bombs in Jamaica. I want to ask this question correctly. I see my good friend Wilfred knitting his eyebrow. So Smith, could you say, how should I put this? We find pipe bombs in a container in Jamaica. You hear nothing from the authorities. Is this a new level of criminality going to start in the country?
Let's hope not. The first thing we have to see, Jamaica has an unfortunate habit, amongst others, of we sensationalize stuff before we actually investigate its true nature. We have found these implements, and obviously they didn't just trip over them. There must have been intelligence sources that let them know that they were, in the island and where they were. They now must use that intelligence to determine the origin of the implements, which would then lead you a little closer to the intention of its use. You can sit down and write novels with all the theories that can abound. Because in Jamaica, we are never short of, let me tell you how it goes. Usually pontificated by people who have no clue of how it goes, but just need their 5 minutes in the sun. But it's a very serious situation. Any American, for instance, was served in the Far East or the Middle East will tell you that these implements are, once they're active and utilized, they're not something to be scoffed at. They can create great danger, a whole heap of damage. And what we have to look at now is, one, were they active? Were they capable of being detonated? And if they were capable of being detonated, what were the contents of them? Which will lead you closer to finding out their origin. The vast amount that is claimed to have been discovered would either indicate an intention to create mayhem in a sustained fashion, or a particular target that required that amount of explosives to penetrate. Anybody who lived in London some time ago will tell you that they feared pipe bombs usually detonated by the IRA, the Irish Republican Army.
Mhm.
And the type of devastation they have, brought about is legendary.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting down wondering to myself, what target or targets would have brought about the introduction of this almost terrorist type of arsenal. I will close my comments by simply saying it is not anything to be either politicized or taken lightly.
Yes. Christopher, you're a Jamaican and you see what is going on in Jamaica. Go ahead, Mr. Rattigan, put up the shirt again, Ratty. Put up the shirt again. Let us, Chris, you are you're a Jamaican. You hear about you hear about pipe bombs in Jamaica.
I haven't heard that personally, only until today. But go ahead.
Yeah, but I mean, they found a container with some pipe bombs in it. Why I'm going down that road? I'm gonna speak way to Herbert next. Then I'm gonna ask Ambassador if they have a situation where people have pipe bombs in South Africa. But I'm asking you this: based on what we hear that's going on in Jamaica, you hear me clearly?
I can, yes.
Yes. This is what is going on in Jamaica where they find the pipe bombs. Do you think it's a different way of how the criminals are going to start their criminality all in a different way in Jamaica?
Well, I think so, absolutely. I think they're ramping up the game, so to speak. And these folks will do what they need to do without any conscience, as they have in the past. So, as they are, have access to or are provided with more and more means to conduct their criminal activity, of course they're going to accept that. And pipe bombs just one step more than they are have in the past. You mentioned container, so I am thinking that you're saying this came in from foreign on a container through customs, yes?
We don't know. It was found at a place in Tivoli. We're assuming that it might have come through the wharf in Jamaica.
Okay. Well, I was always hoping that, for instance, discovering such an item, such a deadly and dangerous item, that the police would give it a thorough examination, thorough forensic examination, and of course, seek assistance as necessary from United States, UK, Canada, whomsoever is available, to help identify the source or the source of such an item. Do you have any idea if any of that is going on?
Not that I know.
Okay. I mean, in my opinion, that'd be the first step. You need to find out the source and stop that, nip that in the bud right away. That's should be a very high priority for the law enforcement in Jamaica.
Yes. Mr. Nelson, Herb Nelson? Mr. Nelson? Oh, I'm not seeing Mr. Nelson. He has frozen. Mr. Rattigan, your thing. You work in South Africa for a long time. Mr. Rattigan, you there with us? I'm not hearing you.
Unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Rattigan, you work as an FBI agent in South Africa. In your time in South Africa, have you ever seen where criminals use pipe bombs in South Africa?
Pipe bombs, no. But Ambassador Mashaile, I think he'll agree with me that we see explosives being used, and they were used in primarily two instances. One, cash in transit heists and ATM bombings. We've seen those, and usually they're explosives that they got from the mines. And what's interesting, and I'm sure Andy will agree with me.
Hold on for me, Rocky. If you're not speaking, please mute your mic because we're having a little feedback here. Go ahead, Mr. Rocky.
No, I'm saying Andy. I'm sure Andy will agree with me because Andy and I, we worked on some of these cases in South Africa.
Yeah. You are correct, Will. If I may interject,
sure.
You are correct. They would use dynamite sticks to get into those cash in transit vehicles, and the ATM bombings that we stopped in 2013. We brought them to a zero from 2010 to 2013. Will was part and parcel of that exercise. Yes, it is correct. I agree with him. Pipe bombs were used before 1994 when we were bombing or when we were fighting with the whites only government, what is popularly known as apartheid government. It is much more appropriate when you say it was a whites only government at the time. So some of the guerrillas and some of the those were opposed to Africans getting their freedom in South Africa. Some of them would use the pipe bombs, but after 1990, 1994, the use of pipe bombs died, and you would only find your dynamite sticks and some used from the mines. Yeah, used from the mines.
May I make a point?
Mm-hmm.
All of the explosives that you've just mentioned are ambiguous in terms of their application. As you say, penetrating ATMs, cash in transit trucks. But a pipe bomb is by and large an anti-personnel weapon. It is used to inflict casualties, not to penetrate places. That is what makes a pipe bomb in urban areas such a deadly situation. It is an anti-personnel weapon. It throws sharpness.
Yeah, so and Bobby is right. It's to inflict mass casualty. So generally speaking, you won't find somebody using a pipe bomb to kill one person. It's usually where you have large gatherings, you'll see pipe bombs being used. So that makes it extremely, extremely concerning. And then you look at you look and you say, okay, where were they located? And also look to see what events are coming up in Jamaica. And we know that the governing party, they have a conference coming up. I think it's next month.
Yes, in November.
Right. But the interesting thing is that it was found in one of their constituencies. So, you know, you kind of figure out, well, what's going on here? I don't know if Andy spoke about proactive and reactive gathering of intelligence. Apparently there was, I don't know if it's intelligence or information they received. The good thing is that they recovered these pipe bombs, but now they have to deconstruct these pipe bombs to look at signatures. They have to look at the material in there, because the FBI lab, they have the Bible on this. So based on the material, they can tell you where, you know, they can tell you about the source of the components and possibly who made the bombs, because all of these bomb makers, they have the signatures. So yesterday on the program, we had on recently retired FBI agent who's worked CT. I mean, I worked CT for years, but I brought her on, and she did a presentation on explosives, particularly pipe bombs, and Jamaica. And she went through a history of Jamaicans involved with explosives and pipe bombs. But at the end of the day, we still have to go back to figure out the first thing I would be thinking about is, are there more? Is this just one shipment? Is this the only shipment? And that's where the intelligence piece comes in. So I just hope that the JCF, they're doing whatever they need to do in terms of intelligence gathering to figure out if this was the shipment, how it came in, who was the receiver, where's the destination, are there more shipments like this, and also get competent bomb specialists to try and figure out the construction of this and the components, and then go from there. They should be calling people like the FBI who they have an expertise in dealing with these things to try and provide some assistance. But I mean, we shall wait, we shall see.
May I just point out that you have ignored one potential, that they were made here.
Well, I didn't want to go there, because here's why I didn't want to go there. If I started to make that point, it would become political, and I'll tell you why. Because people have said in the media that Jamaica has somewhat reversed its position on the Middle East, and as a result of that, Jamaica could be seen as a soft target, and so people could be coming in, wreak havoc. But I didn't want to, you know, that's going in the political realm. I didn't want to go there.
Kind of worms you don't want to open.
Correct.
But gentlemen, it's not really a can of worms we don't want to open, you know. But we don't want to drift away from the conversation here. But when you have Jamaica in the United Nations refuse to cast a vote, it sent a signal that there's something wrong with Jamaica's foreign policy. Go ahead.
I hear you, but let's not say refuse. Let us say neglected to, based on what happened, why they did not.
Yes.
What I'm going to say to you is, the construct of a pipe bomb is not that difficult, my son, if you know what you're doing. And we have a number of people who have returned home under dubious circumstances, some of whom served in the U.S. military. Now, I don't want to give the formula openly, but the nearest hardware store, pick up a length of fencing pipe, caps for it, and go to a fertilizer store. I won't go much further. It don't take much.
So in other
Bobby,
words,
let me just say that I wish you had seen the presentation yesterday by my friend Amanda Strickland from the FBI, because the formula you're talking about is readily available, and actually she put up something on the screen. But what's interesting, you just touched on one of the possible components, fertilizer, because we know that Jamaica received 2.6 million pounds of fertilizer, high grade fertilizer from Morocco last year, February or March. And we know that the government has not adequately explained the disappearance, or not adequately accounted for the full 2.6 million pounds of fertilizer. We know this. And we also know that, okay, go ahead.
You're quite right. Matter of fact, I am aware of what you're saying, but I purposefully didn't run in that direction.
Right.
But it don't change the fact that it is so possible. A matter of fact, it is more possible for what you're describing than to say, in light of our ramped up customs activities, that amount of pipe bombs came through the wharf. It is very possible it was made right here.
Yeah, and then you touch on another point. Don't forget that you were talking about people who came back under dubious circumstances, who served in the U.S. military, but we can't forget that we have a tremendous amount of deportees who were in prison with some of these, some people who have the skills.
I don't call it prison. They went to university.
There you go. They went to university. There you go. Yeah. So it's just concerning. And what's even more concerning is that we don't hear the government coming out with a plan as to what they're doing, and to try and instill confidence in the people that, listen, we have this under control and we need to work with the community. I don't see any of that type of outreach to the community. So I guess they're doing it all alone, and I'm very concerned because I don't think they're capable of handling something like this.
I have a theory now, Wilfred, which I'm hesitant to put forward, but in the interest of public safety, I will. Certain events are on the horizon. If you want to keep people away from that exercise, then where a lot of people are gathered, these things can go off. Pretty soon, everybody stay at them yard, like when they had COVID, everybody turn in your yard. If a couple of these things go off in the wrong crowded places, you can then implement a curfew, a state of emergency, whatever you want, and tell people they can't move and they should not gather. Now, if you are going to have some of these events that we're describing, you can't exercise that franchise without gathering. So you might find that 2 or 3 of these go off, and you have effectively muted the polls.
Let me cut to the chase, Bobby. And Andy, let me just say this one, and because I don't think Andy's aware of this. Jamaica is supposed to be having elections shortly.
Hold on for me, Ratty. Can we all mute our mics? Let one another talk. Please go ahead, Mr. Rattigan.
Yeah, Jamaica is supposed to be having elections shortly, and this might be the new COVID, so to speak, because the one of the things that happened during the last election was they allowed the elections to go forward during the COVID period, but at the same time they were telling people don't gather, and so they had a low turnout, and this might very well be a ploy. Might very well be, we don't know, but it might very well be. And like Bobby says, all you need is just one explosion just before the election, and then they can implement a state of emergency, meaning that they can cordon off areas, movement is restricted, people can be detained, and then it will force people into a sense of complacency and concern for security, and then you'll have a low turnout. And once you have a low turnout, it's almost assured who will win the election. So let me just put that out there.
Can I interject?
Go ahead, Mr. Nelson. Yes, go ahead, sir.
Yeah. One of the things we're failing to see is the fact that there's a lot of dissatisfaction on the island right now in Jamaica. And when there was a lot of dissatisfaction in South Africa back in the 1990s implemented community policing. And Jamaica has failed to do that in its entirety. As a matter of fact, I can think of a few occasions where Jamaican police went into communities and probably had to run and leave the car down there or something. Why? Because the gunfire with superior weapons on the other side, not on the police side, the gunfire was so fierce that they had to leave. Now, the issue is dissatisfaction, no community policing. That means no participation by the communities fully. They're not buying into what the government is saying. They're not buying into what the government is doing. They're not interested. They have to depend on their dons to take care of them. So you have a situation now where you have in local elections coming up. Local election is for KCMC and all the other parish councils. Even at that level, they're going to be fighting to establish a foothold within the communities. And I see the foothold establishment is bumping heads with some of these dons that they chased out of other neighborhoods, and they left Kingston, they left St. Catherine, they left Clarendon, and they went into much tamer parishes where they can reestablish themselves and establish some type of domain. So with all of these things, a new government coming in who would probably change tactics, a new threat, it is good on the part of those who are dissatisfied and those who do not want community policing or any type of security controls. Bring the threat of pipe bombs in or bombing in, right? Because it's not just about the pipe bombs. It is the fact that they have now upped the ante from gunfire to explosion to explosives. And this is the bigger threat to the community and brings fear to the community. So if they're trying to mimic what happened during the time of COVID, they would do a very good job. Us even discussing it right now is impacting the minds of the community at large in Jamaica.
Yeah.
So it's not just the fact that there's a lot of stakeholders in this, some good, some bad. But the fact is, going back and reestablishing community policing as that vehicle to cooperate, get the community to cooperate with the police, to be on the side of the police. Then when you run your campaigns like that in South Africa, or the see something, say something, it's important because it's going to give you good feedback. It's going to give you people willing to give you insider information and make your policing a lot more effective. Right now, that's not happening. There are too many unanswered questions about murders in Jamaica, high-level murders, murder for hire across the Caribbean. All of these things are happening, and nobody's saying anything. The guys who killed the president in Haiti, they ended up in Jamaica. Why did they come to Jamaica? How did they come to Jamaica? Why did they feel comfortable coming to Jamaica? Right? So Jamaica's community was not saying a whole lot. But if there's money in it, tip-offs, cash for information, then you may get some people calling it in or talking. But the community in a whole has not been acting responsibly. And therefore, what you have right now is bad governance. It's not effective.
Ambassador, let me ask you this question, sir. When you were in charge of the turn-back crime initiative in South Africa, if there is a serious event that would affect the nation's security, would you have a press conference pertaining to that, sir? Unmute your mic from here, sir.
Would I have a what?
Would you have a press conference? Would you hold a press conference and saying, like, okay, for instance, saying you find pipe bombs in a container at a open lot somewhere in South Africa, send near to the airport or something? Would you come and tell the nation that, you know, we find some pipe bombs, we're investigating whatever, to let the nation know that something is going on?
Yeah, we have done that on a number of times. I'm sure if you put my name on Google and on YouTube, you will see us next to the many AK-47s that were found. Recently, I've had about 70,000 views talking about drugs, organized crime or transnational crime, and you see some of our faces on TV for the specific purpose of winning trust of the people, winning the confidence of the people, saying to the people of South Africa, law enforcement agencies is active, healthily performing, alive to your fears. Remember, in South Africa, will remember, we have the National Development Plan. Chapter 12 of the National Development Plan says by 2030, the people of South Africa should be feeling safe, and they should actually be safe. When Mrs. Tavares or Mrs. Nelson comes through to South Africa, she should be in a position to enjoy herself by taking walks from this corner of the township to the next corner of the township. She should be able to walk down Mott Street in Sandton without the fear of being accosted. So when you continuously advise the people, which was my responsibility when I was the chairman of the community police board, when we met with Will, we were in Tokoza. It was a hotspot of crime, and we went there as the whole country. And some of us made announcements on and on the podium. Then the media covered the event. It was a big turnout event. Even when we went to Tembisa, it was a big turnout event. Some of us were charged with the responsibility of mobilizing at least a minimum of 5,000 people. Some of us were able, through engagements in with the media houses, print and electronic, we were able to generate about 15,000 people in the stadium. And the minister of the police of national security was there, as well as your national commissioner, as well as your provincial commissioners from the nine provinces, what you would call 9 states. In the American context, it would be your 9 federal state commissioners coming through, displaying what you call show of force, and congregating and galvanizing the numbers, the uniform, the people rallying in a specific community known as a hotspot for hotspot stabilization as well as normalization. So yes, one would say law enforcement in Jamaica, and not only in Jamaica, has a responsibility where a threat to security has been identified. Our discussion now, and from whence I'm seated, revolves around threat identification, threat intelligence generation, and we have just been speaking about open source intelligence that needs to be harvested so that the people in the community could generate much more discussion, which will lead to information, which would then be turned into intelligence products by those agencies responsible for gathering for turning information into intelligence, so that you can act before the crime as well as act after the crime when crime could not be prevented. So I'm saying open source intelligence. I have just been picked up a number of things from this discussion from an open source intelligence gathering point of view. I am sure if you were to talk to me, Jeffrey, about security analysis, I would say send me the screenshots that come through to your show, as well as the people's comments on your comment section. I would bring those comments into a product that would add value for mitigation of risk, as well as reduction of threats to security in our country, as well as in the two countries. Let me conclude the short comment by saying, myself and yourself yourselves over there, we have a responsibility, amongst other things, to harvest open source intelligence and bring it into a book that we would write, publish that, put it out there in the bookshelves. Ordinary people going to Facebook, going to Twitter or X, going to Weibo, going to WeChat, if they are there in that part of the world, and saying this is the information between this date and that date, so that in the next cycle of planning for the reduction of crime, as well as the elimination of crime through hotspot identification, hotspot stabilization, as well as hotspot normalization, ordinary people like yourselves would have contributed towards law enforcement strategies in ensuring that Jamaica and South Africa are safe and secure in the next decade.
Let me switch to Mr. Rattigan. I want to ask Princess the same question. Mr. Rattigan, if you were Commissioner of Police or Minister of National Security for Jamaica, if you were National Security for Jamaica, Mr. Rattigan, and your people come and say to you that we found a container with some pipe bombs, would you address the Jamaican people pertaining to it, sir?
Yeah, that first of all, they'd have to give me a briefing, and I'd have to know. Hello?
Yes,
can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I would have to. They wouldn't just come and say we found out pipe bombs. They'd have to come with a comprehensive briefing. And just to tell me you found pipe bombs, that would be inadequate. So they'd have to give me something more. And then we would sit down and decide what are we going to tell the public, because at the same time, while you want to inform, you don't want to have people just suddenly afraid to go out. And like I said, one of the first things I'd be looking at is to figure out, are there more pipe bombs around the place, and where are they? That would be my first instinct.
If you allow me to interrupt you, you don't want to create panic in the nation by addressing things that have not been properly researched. I'm using research advisedly here. Intelligence gatherers bringing fish and chips intelligence before the Minister of Police and the Minister going out there. You want to have concrete intelligence that would then advise yourselves. Once again, I wanted to introduce the concept of not creating panic.
But part of that too is that, see, you'd have to have an effective police force. Not only a force that's reactive, but one that's proactive and also predictive. And we don't have that in Jamaica. So you'd have to develop the cadre. So they're with the, presently speaking, the way they're composed, I would be hesitant to come out and tell the public anything until I get myself involved and figure out what the hell's going on, because you have to trust your personnel. And I don't think Jamaica has the at least in the JCF, maybe in the military, but I don't think the JCF has the requisite skill, knowledge, experience to deal with this kind of situation. This is a first, I think, for them to find 300 plus pipe bombs, because Jamaicans, if you talk about bombs, they're used to Molotov cocktails. You put some kerosene in a bottle, you put something on, you put some newspaper, and that's it. But not this type of stuff. Just think about it. If New York City, if tomorrow they found 300 pipe bombs in New York City, could you imagine what would happen? Could you imagine what would happen? Jamaica's a soft target, and we need to harden. If you look at the national security plan, they say, oh, we're going to harden this, we're going to harden that. And this is a plan that goes back, I don't know, more than a decade. And if you look at it, nothing has really been done. They've been just throwing money away. I was going to say throwing money at problems, but they've been an issue. They've been just throwing money away. So to answer your question, what would I do? I would have to know more before going out to the public.
My turn, sir.
Go ahead.
I would.
Go ahead.
I would challenge all of us here. The 56 minutes that we have spent discussing national security threats to Jamaica and to South Africa and all other countries in the CARICOM, as well as the African Union and SADC in my South African Development, Southern African Development Community, which is something similar to CARICOM. I want to challenge the six of us to say, how do we convert these 57 minutes now that we have shared? How do we convert that into something that can be read, something that can be shared with Church A or Church B, Mothers Union A or B, and Youth Group A or B, or University Lecture A or B, or as you know, we have station lectures in South Africa. I'm sure in Jamaica they would have something like that. When there's a station lecture, on Wednesday I'll be speaking in Rustenburg at some of these stations on fishing as a form of cyber crime and how to identify phishing, what kind of behaviors. So when we put together something that could be read, that could be challenged, that could be analyzed, we would have contributed effectively in the threat reduction as part and parcel of contribution or investing in the safety and security of Jamaica and South Africa, CARICOM, as well as the SADC, Southern African Development Community, and the African Union. So long story short, we have a responsibility, yourself, Jeffrey, and the rest of you guys, to say, let's put these discussions into a booklet, into a form of a booklet, where the six of us come up and say, this is what we recommend, this is what we see as a threat, this is what we would advise from a threat hunting point of view, so that there can be threat reduction or risk mitigation that is aimed at ensuring that safety and security is elevated and threats are minimized.
I'm going to let Mr. Smith come in, but also I want to ask Ambassador a question here. Oh Lord, it's disappeared. I want to ask Ambassador. Are you hearing me, Ambassador? You're gone. I'm not hearing you now. I'm not hearing you.
Yeah, there's some scratching that I'm hearing from yourself, that side. But go ahead, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm going to ask you this question. how did you get citizens of the Republic in South Africa to work as police officers, in the sense community officers?
Kindly repeat your question. I can't hear you that very well.
No, I'm asking you, how did you get citizens in South Africa to work as community police to help with the crime situation in South Africa?
You identify, I'm going to start at grassroots. You identify people in good standing in your community. You identify teachers. You identify principals or headmasters. You identify nurses in your community. You identify people from the military. You identify people singing church choirs. You identify people in good standing, invite them to a meeting, address what we are addressing now, threat reduction, crime prevention. You put up the crime stats there, and you put your plan, your proposed plan for combating that crime, and you request the involvement and assistance of members in good standing in that community, be them footballers, be them people who are always in the media like myself, be them people who come from various backgrounds but who has the respect of the community, to come up and formulate an interim or ad hoc committee that would address safety and security in their streets, in their block, in their part of the town, as well as the whole town meaning the whole township, or whatever you want to call it. From then you would then go to the district, you go to your region, and you go to your province. Your province would be your state in America. You have your state board, you have your regional board, you have your district board, you have your local community policing for boards that would, amongst other things, ensure that there's a Section 21 company that raises money for the police project in that street, in that locality, in that suburb, so that if the campaign is not a funded mandate or mandate from government, the Section 21 company is able to ensure that there are cameras in the street lights are fixed, your green belts are sorted out, and all other dark lit areas are exposed as a result of, or are eliminated or abolished as a result of ensuring street lighting, the community taking care of the bulbs and fixing the street lights. Not that the councillors don't participate. In your local community policing forum, you have your councillors, your ward councillors being ex officio members of the executive committee. You round up the whole community, that whole community, the microcosm in that community would then replicate throughout the many districts, the many regions, and the many states, formulating your 9 provinces in South Africa, which is your plus minus 54 states in America. That's how we did it.
Yes. Go ahead.
I spent sleepless nights ensuring that we bring cash in transit highs to a zero. I am proud to say I am a winner when it comes to combating cash in transit highs. We brought it to a zero. ATM bombings, we brought it to a zero. I was working with the provincial commissioner, Lieutenant General Petros, who grew up in the communities, who understood my fears when I said cash in transit are a problem, ATM bombings are a problem. Let's do something, which is why we went into churches and we asked them to co-write the policing strategy. And let me tell you, the old ladies who are sweeping in your homes, in your offices, are experts when it comes to providing you with information because they come from burial societies. Some of them are experts when it comes to financial management, keeping minutes, taking down information. And that's how we turned around crime from 2010 to 2013. We were able to turn out of the 9 provinces. Gauteng was province number 9. When you're province number 9 in South Africa, it means you are the capital city of crime. So we changed the order of things. From number 9 to number 1. Will tell you that we were not smiling with criminals, and we never had time to embrace or romanticize criminals. In my space, I don't say crime must fall. I say criminals must fall. When the meaning the drug lords and the kingpins and the runnership fall, you know that crime will definitely fall. You can't say crime must fall and you leave out the criminals. No, you establish your runnership profile. You establish your drug lords or your kingpin profile. You do a proper analysis and you can then be able to deal with crime.
You muted,
Bobby,
Chris.
Exactly.
you wanted to make a point?
Yes, first and foremost, let me say I agree with everything the ambassador said. As I keep telling people, I haven't done this too long, only 43 years. So I've seen most things twice. What you said is in, I suppose, a South African way, what I've been saying for a while. We must first, if you go into the jungle and hunt, you must make up your mind what you're hunting for. Unless you know what you're hunting for and you kill a mouse, you consider yourself as a successful hunter. That's not how it works. You know who the predators are. You know where they walk. You know what tracks they use to hunt. You know what attracts them. And you set up and you go for them. If it is a large lion, a little bow and arrow once upon a time maybe could have helped if you had 10 or 12 of you. But you carry sufficient weaponry that when you fire once, the lion falls. And then you clean up to make sure the next time a lion comes through, it don't smell the death of that lion, so it falls back into the same trap. We know how these predators hunt. But we are saying, oh, let's put them in prison. They have already put us in prison. We are behind bars, afraid to go out at night because of their presence. So they have us in prison. My thing is very simple. I don't like complicated situations. My simple approach to it is this. First and foremost, I think the question that was posed to me is what would I do if I were in the hot seat and these little pieces of metal turned up? I would remember the old time Jamaican saying, not everything good for eat, good for talk. Knowledge is power. Knowledge people don't know you have is absolute power. Let the perpetrators know, because they will know that you have come and taken these items. And make them wonder why you didn't say nothing about it. They know after spell and guess what you know. Whilst you are now doing your due diligence, where did the pipes originate? Can you get some help from the FBI to find out the makeup of the metal of the pipe? First and foremost, simple as it seems, are there fingerprints on it? Is there DNA traces on it? Do the makeup of the things mirror anybody else's bomb making tactics? As you quite rightly said, Wilfred, you have people who make these things that make them with a signature. What would these possibly have been used for? Sit down and work out in your mind what are the possible targets. Then you go out and find a way to harden those targets without letting anybody know that you suspect they may be targets. Once you're working on that basis, you choose the opportunity to quietly, not making headlines or getting social media likes, to say to the FBI or the United States or other people, South Africans, what can I do to set up this situation in a way that I can control it? And once I know as much as I can about these bombs, then I start determining what I am going to say and what I am not going to say. Ask for expertise from people who want to help us strengthen our bomb response teams. We have them in the police force, but they may not be as up to date as we'd love them to be. We now need bomb disposal teams and equipment
Yes.
because somebody has just told us that the game has changed. What next you expect to find?
Yes. Christopher?
Say
Yes.
everybody looking for likes. I say something that, oh, I'm on the job. I found these. Okay, so you found 300. Suppose there's 1,000 out there. You have just told the people with the additional things that you haven't found, you better hide them better than that. Don't even let them spell on this where they want to. And reach for all our partners across the world who have have this situation? Have you run into pipe bombs? This is where what we have discovered so far. Can you help us with some information? Knowledge is power. Knowledge people don't know you have is absolute power.
Yes. Christopher, I know you have a question for Ambassador Andy, and we're going to switch to homicide rate in Latin America and the Caribbean and compare the homicide rate in Jamaica with South Africa. Christopher, ask Andy the question for me, Ambassador Andy.
So my question applies to the pipe bomb issue we have right now, and will also apply to your next topic as well. So I agree, knowledge is power, as you said, and historically we know history from the beginning of time.
Hold on, Chris, we can hardly hear you. Can you speak a little louder?
Yeah, sure.
Just a second. Sorry. Excuse me. As I told you before I joined that I wouldn't be able to stay long with you.
Yes.
So I'm going to go back over and check what you guys have said in my departure. But thank you very much for accommodating me. And I know that based on who is left on this program, some form of concretized idea will come out of it. Ambassador, it was an honor to have met you, sir.
Thank you, Sir Robert Finzer-Smith, Major Robert Finzer-Smith, a former JDF officer, Jamaica Defense Force. Thank you for serving our country, sir. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please pass my regards
You
to
hear
all
it
at
from me
home.
again, Robbie.
Pass my
Yes.
regards to all at home.
I
Thank
will.
you very much.
Thank you.
Christopher, ask Ambassador Andy a question, and we're going to switch to homicide, where we're going to have Mr. Herb Nelson come on in.
All right. Real
Go
quick,
ahead.
Ambassador, thank you very much for the information you provided concerning the way you have done things in South Africa. However, I have one big question for you. Given the fact that information is just invaluable in criminal cases and resolution, and Herb can speak to that as an intel expert there. How do you manage, right, protecting those people who provide information to law enforcement, okay, from reprisal or retaliation from the criminal elements? Because I believe that's a big problem in Jamaica, why people don't come forth. In addition to the fact that we have a whole thing about informers being bad. And that is something that has prevented people from coming forward in Jamaica. That stigma of being an informer, number one, and number two, the very real fact that there's danger in providing information to law enforcement. If that's found out, the criminals will take action and retaliate. How do you prevent that?
Number one, when you make people realize that there is a possibility that they will become victims of crime. When you ask them to assist you with information that would lead you to picking up intelligence on criminal A or B. People voluntarily provide you with that information. Let me tell you a personal story. 3 to 4 weeks or 5 weeks ago, criminals went into my daughter's late mother, and they pointed the firearm at my two daughters who are 30 and 27. They took my daughter's car. It's a small Kia Picanto. My daughter has been a well brought up a young lady. The people in that street were so furious that even before the police came, they had already started doing tracking. I'm talking to you now, having it identified some of the people who are involved in other forms of crime. Now, those people who give me information with a specific aim of me helping to deal with drug pushers in our community come to me because of the level of trust, confidence, and silence when I deal with information that comes through. You can provide that information. In my case, I would give that information to the station commissioner, not just an ordinary police officer, be it a colonel or captain or warrant officer or a sergeant or a constable. No, in my case, I call upon the station commander, provide intelligence, provide coordinates, and do all of those things. The station commissioner is my one point of contact. If any information goes out, I would then know who to deal with. So one way of ensuring that people are not exposed by rogue police officers who are corrupt and criminally minded would be to have one contact point. The office of the station commissioner is the office of the taxpayers. The station commissioner has no business not wanting to meet with a reverend or not wanting to meet with people like Will and yourselves and Jeffrey and Mr. Nelson and yourself. So one way of controlling that information goes to the right sources is to generate and galvanize that information to go to a single office, either the office of your community police board at station level, the office of your chairperson, who would then be able to call the counterpart. The counterpart is the operative. The operative is the one wearing the uniform. Myself, as a chairman of the police board, wearing a suit and tie, I have a responsibility to say, act on this information. The firearms that have been brought to my attention, I want them in, and I want them in with the suspects as well as the cars that have been hijacked. Don't report to me as the chairman of the board that cars, the vehicles that were hijacked have been recovered. I want the vehicle recovered, I want the firearm, and I want the one who was handling the firearm. So from your second point, when people know that they have a responsibility, a role to play in ensuring that by 2030, the people of South Africa are safe and are secure and actually enjoy the freedoms that some of us have fought hard for, and some of us were stuck with guns in their mouth and triggers pulled twice by some people like the Eugene Nicocks of the world. People know that it is a patriotic responsibility to ensure that they provide information, and they are not snitches or informers. They are warriors on the side of safety and security. Remember, informer is not a human being. It is a word that has been weaponized against members of the community who provide information. Yourselves and I have a responsibility to de-weaponize that word and replace it with a powerful word or concept that would make people to be proud to be warriors fighting for safety and security. So in as much as we understand and know how criminals are also using psychological operations to instill fear, we need to instill pride in those who sit in the pews in churches to be the eyes and ears of law enforcement agencies at the right time, at the right spot, at the right level. Engage. When you have the community police forum, you would be able to engage directly with the station commissioner. So that answers your two questions, my blessed brother.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you,
Yes,
sir.
thank you very much. We're going to switch to homicide rates. The homicide rates in Latin America and the Caribbean. And I will start with Venezuela. I won't call the first one name, but I will start with Venezuela. Venezuela is 40 per 100,000. Trinidad and Tobago, 39.4 per 100,000. Honduras, 39.8 per 100,000. Colombia, 26.1 per 100,000. El Salvador, 25.9 per 100,000. Mexico, 25.2 per 100,000. And South Africa, 41 per 100,000. Jamaica stand at 52 per 100,000.
You may want to round up because Jamaica is 52.9.
Okay.
So they're more or less 53%.
Go ahead, Mr. Nelson.
Yeah. Look, this is statistically what they've come up with. You know, we used to say in our business, you throw the numbers up against the wall and you forget about it. And then whatever comes out in the mix reflects on how effective your activities have been. I mentioned before that as part of governance, it takes government, it takes the private sector, and it takes the people in this mix to produce results. I've also said that community policing is the heart and soul of security forces mixed in with the people. And I think the ambassador has explained sufficiently how you motivate the people to rally to your cause. But it's have to be based on mutual respect. We don't have mutual respect in Jamaica between police and people or security forces, including JDF and people, because we see on YouTube and other reports, the police beating or the military gun-butting people who talk up to them and they feel like their integrity is being attacked, is under siege. So we have to get back to basics. I said that from the get-go. You have to get back establishing not just a community policing program, but within the communities, you need confidential informants. You have to develop those confidential informants. There's very little you can prove or very little you can get to without the use of popularly called CIs. So those CIs have to be the ones that are your eyes and ears. You got to pay them well, and you got to keep them on payroll, whether they're producing or not at first, because you have to give them time to develop their sources. They are usually the ones that are in the mix. They can see and they can hear. CI could be somebody sitting within the gang, sitting right next to the gang leader. CIs can be somebody sitting next to that corrupt politician who visits, says what they have to say, undermining the government and the system, and you report on them. There is a lot of things that needs to be answered. Now, El Salvador used to lead the way. By the way, what all of these countries have in common is that the U.S. has been a part of their growth, and the U.S. has seen to it that it's the U.S. form of democracy that has been embraced. And all of these forms of democracy, with the exception of Venezuela, has been blown up. And in Venezuela, where the U.S. has interfered with their governments for decades, from Hugo Chavez till now, it's really blown up. They've been totally undermined, their economies and everything. The only reason the U.S. is back in Venezuela is because of the oil cut off when the Russians misbehaved and went into their neighbor's yard and started making a whole lot of ruckus. So now it caused an oil shortage. And so U.S. has had to go back to Venezuela and ask them to start producing again so that they can balance out this oil and natural gas shortage that could be happening in Europe. So you can see this is an interdependent world where we all need each other. And unless we decide, we the US decide to go into Haiti, expend the same amounts of money to develop Haiti as they have been expending in, let's say, Israel, you will not get any good results, because you have to create jobs. And in addition, you have to build up industries. And that could be payback for the monies that the US had taken from Haiti and given to the French. The French, in turn, has got to give Haiti back that money. Either that or allow the Haitians to sue to get the money back, which is around 20 to 30 billion US dollars. Now, specifically the crime of murder. The murders that have been going off the Richter scale was the highest in El Salvador. What we've seen in El Salvador is a young president coming in and say, okay, we have got about 10,000 disruptors. I'm just throwing that figure out. These are the people who keep appearing on police blotters. These are people we know are going around disrupting the economy, disrupting the social fabric of communities. And we're going to put them all in jail. If Jamaica wants to change constitution, this is an excellent time to do this. Find your disruptors. Your police know who the disruptors are. The disruptors know who the corrupt police are, because they've been working together with them. They know who the corrupt politicians are as well. Find them all and put their asses in jail, just like the El Salvador president did. What happened in El Salvador? The crime rate went from over 3,000 murders, and they were in the lead above Jamaica. It's now down to about 300 murders per year. And that's because of the killings, crime of passion, and other type killings that would probably occur on a normal basis that cannot be predicted because of gang warfare and anything like that. But Jamaica is up there because for far too long, the over 200 gangs and the problems with the lotto scamming, when one group double crosses another and does not share in the spoils, then the other group exercises the right of killing the other members, family members, to get even. But we've known this for over 10, 15 years.
Yes.
And nothing has been done to bring countermeasures to bear to stop that type of activity. Matter of fact, politicians have shared in the spoils. And if politicians and whole communities are sharing in the spoils from the lot of scamming, then you're going to continue to have these type of murders to occur, because people will inevitably double cross each other. And the other areas that we're looking at, like I said, Venezuela, the most definitely, because it's been undermined and it may be on its way back if the U.S. decides to open up, remove some of the sanctions, and fully do business with Venezuela again, and encourage democracy to work.
Yes.
Elections are coming up in Venezuela, so maybe with the U.S.'s support, things can change. Trinidad and Tobago is next in line at 39.4, and we see a steady decline in the relationship between the U.S. and Trinidad. So it's almost as if you cannot get away from the U.S.'s and the U.S. issues that they have with Trinidad. Honduras, another place where they had a democratically elected government, and Hillary Clinton helped to overthrow that government, to change things there. Colombia has been the U.S. partner in Plan Colombia, over $2 billion given to Colombia, and to get rid of the FARC. And the fighting, thank God, has stopped between the FARC and the government. And they're trying to come to a peaceful situation. Unfortunately, Colombia has been outsourcing its ex-military, and they were the ones who went into Haiti, helped to murder the president, and ended up being captured. Ecuador, we see the same problem. Ecuador has problems with the U.S. They have problems with left-wing, right-wing. Mexico, same issues, left-wing, right-wing. And Belize, the third country in the top 10 from the Caribbean, has always had issues of governance, same as Jamaica, gangs, and a lot of petty crimes that have escalated into murders.
Yes.
25 per 100,000. So you have situations where we have escalated or allowed crime to escalate from petty crimes into more serious crimes that undermines the economy and disrupts entire communities. So we have to get back to community policing, and we have to get back to communities developing a safer city program by making the people in the communities become more unified, form groups, look at the NGOs that are able to assist, request funding, and start to build from within the community. Start to build those organizations that are effective, get the churches involved again, and this will help to stem the tide of trafficking in terms of the weapons coming in, trafficking in terms of the drugs that's going out, and the human trafficking, which takes a heavy toll on communities today in the Caribbean and Latin American regions.
Yes. Ambassador, based in South Africa.
Let me
Go ahead. Go ahead.
let me
Go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
let me add on to what Mr. Nelson has just shared with us. You have police officers in that area whose family members were brutally killed. Some of them are no longer in law enforcement agencies or police forces. You have ex military special.
Ambassador? Lord. Seems like he has
So,
spoken. Ambassador, if you're hearing us, you can reconnect and come back on in. I was going to ask him about the homicide rate in South Africa. Based on their homicide rate in South Africa, what are they doing now? What have they done to combat that? And, with our homicide rate in Jamaica, Wilfred Rattigan and Herb Nelson Jr. and Christopher, obviously, we have a lot of work to do. Wilfred Rattigan?
We have much more than a lot of work to do. We have to basically start all over. The plan that they've implemented is simply not working. They started this plan since 2016. They announced it. It's called Plan Secure Jamaica. And I keep saying this because people keep asking for a crime plan. And the government made it abundantly clear back then that the crime plan is not a crime plan per se. It's a national security plan, which includes a crime plan. And it's called Plan Secure Jamaica. And they've spent, more than $1 billion on this plan. And this is where it's gotten us. It's gotten us to the point where it's gotten us to the point where it's gotten us to the point where we're not seeing the results that we should be seeing. And that's simply because we don't have the leadership. And it starts from right there. It starts right there. Because if you read Plan Secure Jamaica, if you read the National Security Plan, they're very sound plans. They're very sound plans. The question is, how do we implement those plans? I mean, any law enforcement official who reads the plans, and by the way, they have lots of plans in Jamaica. I think they've had, like, over the last, I'd say, 15 years, they've had like about 6 or 7 crime plans. A friend of mine up at the university, I won't call his name, he wrote a crime plan for them as well. And they paid for these things, they accept them, and then they put them on the shelves because they're not following the script. So this plan that they boast about, the Plan Secure Jamaica, it's been around since 2016. And here it is that the crime rate hasn't fallen below 1,000. I mean, the homicide rate has not fallen below 1,000. And then we have a police commissioner who's the highest paid police commissioner in the history of the JCF. And then we don't see any leadership being displayed. We don't see, morale is probably at an all-time low. People are looking to leave as soon as they can get an opportunity. That doesn't bode well for the JCF. And remember now, the JCF is Jamaica's crime fighting force. It's not the JDF. The JDF is there to protect Jamaica primarily from outside threats, i.e. a war. And they're getting ready to send people to Haiti as well. Who knows what's going to happen there. So, we keep hoping that things are going to change. And they do change, but they change for the worse. And we keep doing the same thing, which is nothing. So I don't know where we're going from there. Chris.
Well, homicide rate next to terrorism, I suppose you would say, is one of the highest crimes and should be a highest priority crime to be dealt with and addressed. It should be a priority for the government, right? Protecting its people. That's one of their main things governments do, And as you said, Rattigan, there have been many crime plans, a lot of written plans, which I guess are useless unless they're put into action, right? I just say, it's up to the Jamaican people to continuously and constantly hold their leaders to account and just, bombard them with reasons. Why are we not addressing this issue properly? Why are we not having any results? Why are we one of the highest homicide rates in the world? And keep pushing that, because I mean, they're the ones that are going to have to make the change. It's not the people. The people don't have the authority or the guns or the police authority. It's the government, right? They don't have the forensic capabilities, etc., and the investigative capabilities. They don't have the ability to go even outside the country and say, "Hey, U.S. help us, Canada help us, UK and whoever else help us." It's the government, right? Those are elected and put in position. So they are the ones to do it. And I'm sorry to say, I don't see another way, because just hold them accountable. Not sure how effective that can be, but definitely keep your voice loud, and appeal to anybody and everyone who will listen to help to enact some of these plans that they put into action. That's the best I can say, because they can turn within and try to help themselves, but apparently the criminal element in Jamaica have really intimidated the public to the point where people are afraid. You have people who don't want to talk to the police. And again, Herb mentioned reasons why, and somebody else as well, I believe, the behavior of law enforcement. So people don't have the confidence they need or should have to give these law enforcement officials the information they need to solve this crime. And as I mentioned earlier as well too, another issue is that they're afraid to give them information because the criminals, will retaliate, and also, unfortunately, corruption. The police will give the criminals information too for money. So the problem with that is very, very deep. I know you're not asking me for a solution per se, just my opinion on that. And that's where it stands, that we have to just keep on pushing these politicians, holding them accountable for the crime.
That's all we have to do, because if we don't do something like that, then may God help us. We have lost Ambassador Andy Mashaile. I don't know what happened. We have lost him. I don't know what really happened. I was gonna ask him some more questions about how does he investigate some of the crimes that comes across his desk when he was Interpol ambassador to South Africa. But we have lost him. Hopefully he'll come back on. Mr. Nelson, you are in a situation, well, not a situation. You're a person who loves to dig deep in what is going on with the crime situation in Jamaica. I wish to God Ambassador will come back on. Based on what you're seeing now, Mr. Nelson, Jamaica is number one in Latin America and the Caribbean when it comes on to homicide rate. Do you think that these political parties over the years, these ministers of national security over the years, have done enough to stem Jamaica's crime problems, sir?
Well, I opened by talking about community policing being the heart and soul of what South Africa began in 1990s, right? And until and unless you can establish a relationship with your communities, you would not need ZOSO or SOE if you have the type of relationship that is needed to solidify and harden your community. It should be a matter where the community is talking to their police officers. Police officers live in every community, and as such, they can be pillars of the community. They can be the ones that ensure that things run smoothly. So without that relationship, you now have to depend on paying out a lot of money to get the answers that you need. And if you don't pay out a lot of money, you have to depend on modern technology and systems of surveillance, whether it's listening in on somebody's phone calls or putting listening devices where they gather. that's the only way you're going to get your information. Either way, it can be effective. But the other issue we're having is CTOC, who was committed back in 2017 to be a counterterrorism force, appears to be handling basic murders from homicide to high-profile murders. They seem to be the prime minister's go-to group to contain information when people around the prime minister get in trouble. And if CTOC is going to be used in that manner, to include investigating people who have reported PSOJ high-level corruption in certain companies in Jamaica, then CTOC is used as a weapon to investigate these people and to prosecute them. And the prosecutions turn out to be not just unjust, but it turns out to be prosecutorial misconduct in most cases. So when you're using your counterterrorism unit in that fashion, or your organized crime unit in that fashion, where does that leave the other 3-name and 4-name units like NIB, like MIU, right? Like MOCA, right? These are supposed to be units that can handle some of this stuff, but CTOC seemed to be there. They were there when MOCA started out with the SSL, and all of a sudden CTOC stepped in and took over. What was CTOC's job to control? What were they controlling? Why did they have to step in and push MOCA aside? You know, why wasn't a regular FIU assisted by maybe the fraud squad be the ones to lead the investigation? Because none of the detectives on CTOC seem to know what the hell they're doing because they're not getting the results. You got a house where the prime minister's lawyer was in that house with a man he was housing who there was questionable activities between them as to whether or not he had misutilized that man's funds, and the man ends up dead. And you hear there's no transparency and there's no accountability, which is a part of our good governance programs. None of even the internet young lady who got murdered by a police officer, we raised the flag on that one before they acted, yet there's no transparency and no accountability shown. It's the same thing. Every major case has been dark.
Yes.
They come on, they come on and they give news conferences that seem to be more dramatic than substance, right? And they're all our productions designed to make the JCF look good.
It's the same way with Donnelly Donaldson's case. We're hearing nothing more about Donnelly Donaldson's case.
That's the one I was talking about, the internet young lady.
No, that's a different case. You have the internet young lady and you have Donnelly Donaldson's case.
Donnelly Donaldson was
a police officer.
Yeah, the police officer killed her. But what was she known for?
Was it maybe just internet? I don't remember. But I know. Yeah. We hear nothing about that. Mr. Rattigan.
Personality.
Yes, Mr. Rattigan. Based on the figure that comes out of Jamaica's pertaining to murder, They said it's 1,000. They say it's 1,000. The last time I heard the Minister of National Security said it's over 1,100 something people murdered since the
No, it
start of
gone
the year.
past that. It
Huh?
gone past that. It
Of
gone
course it can't
past
pass
that.
that.
Mhm.
But this is what they're telling the people of Jamaica.
I mean, even by their count now, I think it's like 1,200. The last time I heard, it was 1,200 and something.
Yes.
But
That is before the triple and quadruple murders.
yeah, and I wrote to them. You can't hear me?
Yes, man, I'm hearing it loud and clear.
So I wrote to them and I asked them to give me the information regarding murder investigation because those numbers, my understanding is that those numbers don't count. These are people who have been killed, but the police are still investigating. So those numbers, they don't get folded over into the official homicide count. I mean, that at least that's what I'm being told. I've also been told that the autopsies, cause of death, that those numbers, if you need a coroner to do an autopsy to pronounce cause of death. And so even if a man have a made chop off, the coroner still has to determine cause of death because it could be from a heart attack and then they chop off him after. You know what I mean? Or it could be a drowning and then them hang the person. So they want to look at the cause of death. So those numbers, they don't get folded over either because the autopsies have not been conducted. And then you have your missing then you have the persons who were injured. They got treated at the hospital, sent home, and after a period of time, they expire. I've been told that those numbers don't get captured. And then you have your missing persons. And if somebody is missing for more than 7 years, the relatives can actually petition the court to declare the person dead. And so I'm asking for the number of missing persons over a period of time, the number of people who expired as a result of gunshot wounds or knife, stabbings or whatever, and the other two, the autopsies to be performed and the murder investigation. And they wrote me back and said that they've received my request and they'll respond appropriately and in a timely fashion. I haven't heard anything back, but I'm going to keep digging because I know that the numbers that they're putting up, those numbers are not accurate.
They're not.
They're not accurate.
I want to say thanks to Reggae Global Radio for coming on the program. Thanks to everybody who is here. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Sir Christopher, are you still there with us? So Nelson, we're gonna wrap up this now because we're hoping we were very hoping to get the general on, but last night or into this morning rather, he sent a message to me that due to circumstances beyond his control, he's unable to come on, but he will come on some other time, hopefully. We have lost Ambassador Andy Mashaile. I don't know what happened. I think his internet went down or something. Mr. Nelson, all of this that is going on, all of this, what do you think is Jamaica's solution to crimes?
Yeah, I can give you a snapshot answer because they need to reestablish those things that we spoke about earlier, the community policing, the CI program, and they need to promote more things like Project Star, which was brief 2016, and they ignored it. They chose to ignore it till now. So we need these programs to have a community build-up. We need to stop buying votes and to earn votes of our people. If that will take some of that stigma of corruption away. You cannot corrupt that process. Everything else is corrupted, but you must leave room for change in communities. When you find that people are corrupt and they're not working out, you call them out. This is why we're trying to get the constitutional change so we can do recall elections, so we can impeach people, because those tools are sadly needed in Jamaica today. You know, there are a lot of things occurring that are strange, right? For instance, yesterday we discussed at great length the monies that this wonderful, magical Camelot couple has created in Jamaica. Instead of building the 70,000 homes that they promised, they're building Castle Royal up in Leeds Flat in Red Hills, right? This is not this part of the 70,000 homes, I can assure you, right? Unless Chris is gonna move in there and retire down there, which I don't think he will. But the bottom line is, you cannot come in 2007, you can't pay your college bill, and come 2022, you have $192 million in assets to your name, right? If I knew what I know now, that it would be so lucrative to be a politician, I would have probably come back to Jamaica back in 2016 when Rattigan and I were down there and tried to see if I could win the same lottery, because that's the only way in hell this is going to happen. You know, something, and you know, well, thanks to our listeners here, that the title of that young lady was Facebook influencer.
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to make that. Thanks to, you see, we have a smart listening audience and watching us, and they know the facts. We don't have to educate them, you know, but we want their involvement with One Jamaica Legal Defense Fund. And I know a lot of them yesterday, a lot of them gave money yesterday to the One Jamaica Legal Defense Fund, and we're thankful for that. It means people mean business. They want to get these jokers out of office. They want to clean things up, right? But, you know, we want the people, today's Sunday, a lot of people go in church today. We want them to talk about this at the church services. We want it to be a part of the announcement on the Sunday bulletin that there's a One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation, and that we need things cleaned up. We got too much corruption. And it's not just in government, it's in the church as well.
Oh Lord, don't talk
We
about
can
the church.
help
Give
you
you all.
clean it out of the church. We look at every pastor if we have to. But we need to get things cleaned up, and we need a better Jamaica as a result of us, what we call straightening up or flying right.
Yes. And to all our viewers here on the Make We Talk program, remember to go to the One Legal, what is it again, Mr. Rattigan?
One
I getting
Jamaica.
young, you know. I getting young. You're younger than me.
No man, it's One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation.
Yeah.
OJLDF .org, and it's the that's the website.
The email.
Yeah, that's the website, and then the email is we'll get it up. It's One Leg Deaf.
One Jam
Leg Deaf.
Leg Deaf at proton.me. PROTON.me. Okay.
Yeah,
One Jam Leg Deaf.
Yeah. for One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation. So it's ONEJAMLEGDEF at proton.me. And
Yeah.
and by the way, they should go there. They should also go to www.ojldf.org. That's the website, and they can check us out there. Can make a donation using the platform there, as well as for the website. If you have information of corruption in Jamaica, or information of corruption, not just by public officials, but any person, please send it to our email. We do check the emails and we do respond. And if there's something there that's worthy of our attention, then we'll certainly look at it. But don't forget to make your contribution, because as I've said, you have to have conviction. Support it with your cash so that we can get convictions for you.
Yes.
You believe in what we're doing, you support us financially, then we will deal with the corrupt politicians appropriately. And I don't want people to think that the only way you can deal with corrupt politicians is through MOCA or Integrity Commission. There are other ways of dealing with them, and we know some of those ways. So if you're not a supporter, start supporting the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation. If you are a supporter, we thank you very much. And as we said, there are lots of things we'd like to do, but it takes cash to do some of these things. And absent that, all we're going to do is we're just going to talk. But I know that our people, they just don't want us to talk. They want us to act. And we can't act if we don't have cash. It's that simple.
I see where Freedom is saying, I spent 8 hours on his program yesterday, and then his radio program until 2 a.m. in the morning.
Really? Freedom then?
It's Freedom. General people, we're here to speak about what is going on in our country. We try to compare the situation in South Africa to the situation in Jamaica. And they have similar problems that they have in South Africa, still probably have in Jamaica. And I was hoping that I could get the general to come on to give us some more info on what is going on in South Africa. But of course, Ambassador Andy Mashaile did give us some good talk on it. Wilfred Rattigan, Jamaica is a country that we dearly love. A lot of people may say that we come on every day and we chat about Jamaica and we do nothing. This is a prime time for us all to go to the One Legal Fund. Go to it and donate. I know Christopher will donate at least $4 million to the legal fund, you know?
$4 million Jamaican dollars. How much that come to?
4 million US, you mean?
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't ask Chris to do that, man. I would ask him to do the 4 million Jamaican.
Chris, your final word on this program, because we're gonna wrap up. We're not gonna extend this program, because I know Mr. Rattigan have a program this evening on WZPP and WZOP, and I think I'm gonna broadcast that on my channel this evening. I think I'm gonna get the feed to broadcast on my channel, that you all can listen to what Mr. Rattigan is gonna say on WZPP and WZOP radio. He will be live on that radio station this evening. And, we're going to listen to what he's going to say on the radio program this evening. Christopher, your final word on what is going on in the land of wood and water. What is your views?
Thank you for inviting me, first of all. And second, thank you for providing, and Will as well, I know you have a program, and of course, Herb, for providing this very necessary and important forum, right, for us to discuss these issues that concern all Jamaicans and outside of Jamaica as well. We definitely need to discuss what's going on, share ideas, exchange our information about issues going on, and our views and so on. And that's also a really, really important step in moving forward to finding a solution, right? I know a lot of things that we've been talking about is very frustrating because, as one of y'all said, it's a lot of talk and no action, but we must start with talking first, right? Before we can address the action. So this is the step. I think we're in the right direction for discussing the possibilities and what have you. And also thank you for bringing on the ambassador. And I know we didn't have the general on, he couldn't make it, but these are folks that have ideas or solutions that worked in their country, which may or may not, or could be applied to Jamaica. So it's good to at least address those issues as well too. And you provide a great forum for that, guys. Keep doing what you're doing. And I know that you're also asking about for funds for the legal defense fund as well too. If you can just make that perhaps more clear as to what that will be used for, you may get more contributors. That's just my opinion. But as I said earlier, just my take on it is keep the pressure on the leaders of the country, regardless of party. Now, this is not to do with party, okay? Because under both parties, crime is high. It doesn't matter. This is not a PNP GLP thing at all. Keep the pressure on them. It is their responsibility to take care of their citizens. Yes, you'll do your part as citizens, but a lot of it is beyond the control of your average man on the street, just trying to make it. All right.
Yes.
So I really think that for now, that's the thing to do. Make them accountable. Keep pushing. Keep talking. Keep saying what you have to say. Utilize the media. Ask everybody. Talk about everything you need to talk about, just as you're doing here, and we'll see if that has some effect on getting them to do the right thing, so to speak. Other than that, we can keep the discussion going. It's very, very important to talk about it because it's good to hear what the perspectives are.
Yes, thank you, Christopher. I saw Mr. Rattigan look up in the sky as if he's asking the Lord, thy God, to come down and save the land of wood and water.
No,
Were you praying, Mr. Rattigan?
No, I was actually reading the comment by Freedom. Hey, Freedom, let me just tell you that.
Let me say one more thing, Ratty, before you go. One more thing. Since Jeffrey mentioned prayer, right? Let me remind everybody that the Jamaican people has one of the best, if not the best national anthem in the entire planet. It's a prayer to God. And we should say that anthem and pray that anthem. Because what the anthem is saying is literally asking for God to come down and guide our leader. It is of the best. So please, that's the last thing I want to say since you mentioned prayer. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Let me see.
You're talking about freedom.
Yeah, Freedom asked a question. And I wanted to first I want to thank Freedom for staying with us through that marathon session last night. And I tell you what, it went by really, really fast. I didn't even know it was 8 hours, you know. When it hit the 7-hour mark, I think somebody put in there that, hey, it's 7 hours and we're still going strong. And then also to come back and do the 2-hour program with me, Freedom, I sincerely appreciate it. And grateful for your effort in just sticking around and listening, and also sticking around with me so that I, the music is kind of cathartic because it helps me to kind of unwind from a program like that. So that was great. But then Freedom asked a question about South Africa, saying that I had worked there and what was the personality. And let me just talk about the police personality and at large a little bit. The police personality, it's kind of similar. You do have your corruption, and you have a lot of it. The difference, though, is that civil society and others in South Africa, they're making a concerted effort to root out, including the political opposition. They're making a concerted effort to root out the corruption. And so on a regular basis, you'll see articles, you'll see interviews where they have identified corruption. Not too long ago, they even identified the president of the country, who's a billionaire by U.S. standards.
You mean former President Jacob Zuma?
Not him, the current one, Ramaphosa, Cyril Ramaphosa.
Yes.
Where they found money in his couch, and and it's illegal to have certain amount of money in certain amount of cash, U.S. dollars. It's illegal to have a certain amount in your house, yeah. And he had, you should see the story. He's still there, and of course Jacob, he's legendary. as far as that's concerned. But like I said, there's more exposure in South Africa, and they seem to be more willing to do some things. They're not there yet. Let me just make that absolutely clear. They're not there, but they're far ahead of where Jamaica is, because Jamaica is just, we tend to be apathetic, and part of that is because of the poverty. People are more concerned about eking out a living than worrying about what the rich people or the politicians are stealing. And although that's where they should devote some attention to that, but they're not, and I can understand. So that's why a program like this is important, so that we can highlight, because I can't begin to tell you how many times people have said to me that, you talked about this and you talked about that, and I didn't know that this was going on in Jamaica. And these are people who live in Jamaica, and they're saying we didn't know, because part of it is a media blackout, or the 9-day wonder, where the media will talk about it and it's in the news for 9 days, and then it's overtaken by another event, and then that event is just pushed under the rug. Take, for example, the Grace McLean.
Yes.
I have to give her a title, Dr. Grace McLean. But how could the government forget that there's a 3-year statute of limitation to at least have this woman pay back the money? How could they forget that?
They didn't forget it, Mr. Rattigan. They didn't forget it. They just didn't want her to pay it back because somebody else is involved in it.
Well, I'm not gonna. What I'm gonna do is, no, I understand the allegation, but what I'm doing, I'm putting it on them to explain to the Jamaican public, why is it, how is it, how did it happen that 3 years went by and nobody did anything, and now she doesn't have to pay that money back because the judge ruled that there is no case. You have 3 years to bring the action. You didn't bring the action. The case is thrown out. But now she's possibly, based on what I've read, looking at being reinstated in her job, because she was interdicted, so she went home. And then there's also the looming possibility of a lawsuit for defamation, because they're saying that she stole, or she was responsible for disbursing those monies when she shouldn't. But again, you see, it's just apathetic. We're not paying attention. We just sit back and we just get hit. We get bombarded with event after event after event of corruption, alleged or otherwise, and we just sit there and we just take it. So that's the value of a program like this. Like Chris said, we need to talk about the issues. Yes, we need to do something, but you can't do anything unless you know what the issue is. And so for those of you listening, those in your listening audience or your viewing audience, hearing about the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation for the first time, the purpose of it is to hold our political leaders accountable. We're looking at transparency, democracy, rule of law, good governance, and we're doing it, at least in the initial stages, 3 ways. We're doing it by bringing lawsuits to compel the government to do what it's required to do, or at least to provide information so that people can understand what's going on. The second way is a public relations campaign where we can highlight certain things. For example, the beach issue. And that's an issue that every Jamaican should identify with, because Jamaicans don't have unfettered access to beaches in Jamaica. So that's an issue that everybody can jump on. And we want to do a public relations campaign on that. And the third part is, whenever we have issues regarding, or whenever we have information regarding corrupt politicians, we plan to do a background investigation to verify if what we're hearing is true. And believe me, there are plenty of suspicious politicians, suspicious of illicit enrichment. And we hope that we can be the Integrity Commission in the diaspora, where we can do what the Integrity Commission cannot, will not, or are afraid to do. Because you can't tell me that you have 6 politicians that you're investigating, and to date we don't have the report in Parliament. Even if that, and by the way, they don't have to they don't have to wait for an annual report to push this out. They can do it one at a time and ask the parliament to act expeditiously in tabling it. And also, we don't need the report to be tabled before they can start talking about it. All we need is for the investigation to be completed, and then they can start talking about it. But as we say in Jamaica, the Integrity Commission for its own shadow, because they've been beaten so badly that now it's almost like they're just so careful about what they do that they're not doing anything. And if there's one job that I would lobby for, and I hope the people in position and power in Jamaica, they're listening to me. If there's one job I would lobby for, it's to be in charge of the Integrity Commission. Because if you put Wilfred Rattigan in charge of the Integrity Commission and you let me pick my team, I guarantee you'd see a marked difference in how corruption is dealt with in Jamaica. Because we're going to put people in prison and we're going to speed up these investigations. You can't take a year to do something like this. Look how small Jamaica is.
But Will,
hold on for me, Sister Nelson. Hold on for me a minute.
I was just about to say, Will is forcing me to cite the very person that he's going after. That will never happen.
Because I was just gonna say, hold on, Mr. Nelson. I was just gonna say, have Will as Integrity Commission boss and have you as DPP.
Well, let me say this. I would have to bring in outside attorneys, aggressive attorneys. People bring them in from the UK, for anywhere in the Commonwealth. If they've been aggressive, they're going to get more aggressive, and we're going to give them the evidence. We'll bring in Chris. Would have to be running that investigative team. Will you call them special teams inside the prosecutor's office, Chris? The ones that back up prosecutors. You're muted.
Chris, you're muted, Chris. Unmute your mic.
You're still muted. Oh, he had to go and come back.
Yeah, we want to say good afternoon to the Reggae Global family. Good afternoon to Mrs. Robinson and Mr. Ed Robinson, who I am presumed they're watching us. And I must say that the Make We Talk song that you heard, it was done by Mr. Ed Robinson. He is the one who did the Make We Talk song, courtesy of our good friend here, who is on here, who asked him to do it for me, Mr. Wilfred Rattigan. I must say good afternoon to Mrs. Robinson and Mr. Ed Robinson. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. To answer Herb's question, are you referring to like task forces, or you're saying some sort of special?
Yeah, but aren't most prosecutors' office supported by their own special investigators within their?
They have some. Correct. Yeah.
So Jamaica doesn't have to take the word of CTOC or MOCA or anybody else. They can have their own prosecutors review the cases before they present it in court, because we still get a lot of kickback out of the Supreme Court where the cases are incomplete and the evidence is just not there. Am I correct? Chris?
No, so repeat your last question.
No. I was saying we still getting a lot of the cases are failing in the Supreme Court because the evidence is insufficient or the case file is just not there. It's incomplete.
Right, so what that is, in my opinion, is a failure of the prosecutor and the investigators to properly assess what's necessary to move forward. Okay, because it takes both. All right. So that's where it stands. It is actually that simple. They need to determine how much evidence they need, what type of evidence, and the investigators go out and get it.
Okay.
All right.
I see somebody, Freedom is asking, can any lawyer from the Commonwealth work in Jamaica?
One.
Well, if they can run for office in Jamaica, they can work in Jamaica, right? They're qualified, fully qualified as a citizen of the Commonwealth to participate in the political system in Jamaica. They understand they've been trained in the same manner under the British Commonwealth system in law. So I'm certain that they can present cases in Jamaica. And there's something in the Constitution that says a qualified person, attorney, correct me if I'm wrong, Will, can present a case with the endorsement of the DPP's office, correct?
Unmute your mic, Mr. Rattigan.
To go back to the question, I think that if you're a Commonwealth lawyer, you can practice in Jamaica.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're a member of the Commonwealth.
We must say good
And
afternoon.
that would make sense because that would make sense because, like you said, they're qualified under a British system, and all of the Commonwealth lawyers, they can actually go to the Privy Council and argue. So it would make sense.
Yes. We must say good afternoon to the head of the Jamaican Diaspora Crime Prevention Task Force, Mr. Dr. the Honorable Rupert Francis.
Where is he?
He's there typing up all sort of thing, you know. He's bigging you guys up. Dr. Rupert Francis, head of the Jamaican Diaspora Crime Prevention Task Force. There he is. He's asking a question and giving a statement and everything like that. Dr. Rupert Francis is no stranger to the Mecca Talk program. Gentlemen, I know you all have other things to go and do, but before you all go, we're gonna end the program as what Christopher said, that our national anthem is a prayer. And we may not have to stand at attention, but we can sit at attention. Mr. Nelson and Wilfred Rattigan, your final words before we go. I think we gave his final word already. So Nelson, your final word before we go.
Well, you know, we have said the same things that we've all been saying today, and we heard it exemplified by Ambassador Andy Mashaile from South Africa. The similarities in crimes in South Africa, to even include the murders, they're there, right? Jamaica is killing more people. I won't even say more people than Haiti, because Haiti is on track for 3,000 for this year. Just that they just have not had a legal way of recording. So they have not been publishing anything on Haiti. But we are there, we're worse than Afghanistan. And there's supposed to be a war ongoing there. Anywhere there's a war, even Kenya, where there's a war with Al-Shabaab, we're worse than them, right? So maybe we ought to ask the Kenyans to stop by in Jamaica, do R&R, and give our people some insight as to how they should be fighting the type of crimes that are occurring in Jamaica, and they're unable to deal with it. We surely need a best practice to follow, because what we're doing in Jamaica is not working.
I think I was just hopped.
Okay, well,
you know that Herbert and Will, I think my system was just hacked.
How is that?
Because the whole thing that I had with the comment just disappeared and something just came up about signing in.
Anyway, that wouldn't be that wouldn't be act unless somebody put their own some other subtle messages out there and take.
But the whole message screen just disappear. Are you seeing it, Will?
Yeah.
Anyway, Will, your closing remarks to every one of us here. Let me go sort this thing out.
Yeah, let's keep the fire burning, support the One Jamaica Legal Defense Foundation, and let's come together for the purpose of saving our jewel in the Caribbean. And tune in later on. I'll be on Jeffrey's station at 4 o'clock, WZPP. And then tonight, Herb and I will be on Wayne Lonesome's regularly scheduled town hall meeting from 7 until you say when.
Mind you, make people think I want to read a station in South Florida and a Wilfred Rattigan.
Oh, you don't?
I don't want a radio station. You see, you're a big setup, you know.
I thought that was ZZP. Is it WZPP or
WZPP and WZOP, the voice of the Caribbean.
Yeah, they're Are you not the owner? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I should not said anything. Okay. All right. People forget I said anything about Jeffrey owning the station.
Ladies and gentlemen on this platform, I do not own any radio station, so don't follow Wilfred Rattigan. I must say thanks to Ambassador Andy Mashaile of former Ambassador Wilfred Rattigan, Herb Nelson Jr., Christopher, and also going to say thanks to Lieutenant General Godfrey Lebeya for, he reached out to me and said he couldn't make it because of some circumstances behind his control, and he was hopeful that he'll come on the next time. The next time we're going to have a forum like this is going to be the forum on the Constitution. Hopefully I'm going to get the minister herself to come on to speak to us. I don't know, but I'm going to try my endeavor best. I see Wilfred laughing at me.
If you get her, call me.
Hopefully we get the minister to come on to lecture us some more about our Constitution here in the Jamaican diaspora. Until you hear my voice again, remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel. Gentlemen, before you all go, let us play our national anthem. To say goodbye. Are you hearing it?
No.
No.
I don't know what's going on. Hold on.
No.
Response to duty's call. Strength
Jamaica love, the nation that we love so much. Until you hear our voice again, may God bless you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Make We Talk Jeffrey Tavares YouTube channel.
When the game gets rough and this life just seems so tough, make we talk, my people, make we talk. When this town becomes an ugly place, don't let it erase the smile from your face. Make we talk, people, make we talk. Conversation is the key, a guiding light for you and me. Spark a talk and you will see. Conflict solver A to Z. World leaders master the art of self-defense just by talk. So people, make we talk. Hey, we're living in a world that on ourselves we must depend. Make we talk.